So yeah, SBOM, right? Maybe that should be like the root of all the solutions. It's just like think SBOM first and then build your solution on top of that.
I mean, all the fields that I see here are things that can go in an SBOM. If there's stuff here that does not belong there, then we should probably think of adding this separate label. But from what I see, this all belongs in a bill of materials.
But we definitely need a way for a platform to convey information about the local source code to the lifecycle to capture it in CycloneDX or SPDX or whatever. But I agree that that should be the destination.
I do wonder if something similar to like environment variables would work here, where the platform could provide its set of information, right, that it's aware of into the platform directory as part of a file system API. Then the lifecycle reads from that, but then Buildpacks are also able to contribute to that. And again, maybe tying it all directly to SBOM format, but seems like additive, right? Like everybody kind of wants to contribute their piece and we want to allow them to.
Isn't that what the current SBOM functionality does in build TOML and launch TOML? Everybody contributes a piece of SBOM.
Does the platform do so as well?
I don't think the platform has a way of contributing. It's only Buildpacks right now can contribute to the SBOM, but we need a way for the base image to specify its packages in a label that'll get read into the SBOM. And so some consistent interface there that's like the base image label, or or the I guess the base image SBOM that's external to the image gets pulled in along with additional SBOM entries coming from the platform about the application, along with the contributions of the build packs as they process the application source, result in the final thing.
Yeah, see, I like that, right? At first glance, that sounds really good. I think that's sort of the solution that I'm hoping we get, as opposed to just changing source into an array.
Makes sense. I think there's a question of at what point should something communicate in CycloneDX, right? And I feel like because the build packs are going to output CycloneDX, and because the base image is going to be labeled as CycloneDX or SPDX, I mean, just the SBOM format, right? The platform should also probably contribute its things into as SPDX, which means pack should probably read the app source and convert that into Cyclone, and then put that into the extra platform SBOM contribution file or something like that. That is then combined with the thing that the platform reads from the cosigned signed SBOM next to the image, or co-tagged with the image, and then combined with the build pack entries, and then that should produce a new SBOM for the app. Yeah. Sorry. It seems like the right way to do it.
Yeah, from the platform's perspective, I'd much rather like that, like relying on a known format, as opposed to having this format, then it very likely changing as time goes on and having to re-implement it.
I think even if SPDX wins, because SPDX isn't mergeable really, if everything communicates as Cyclone, and then at the end you get to choose if you want to keep it in Cyclone or convert it to SPDX, right? Because you can convert in that direction. Then it seems like everything works out.
I mean, in my current RFC, I do propose that people can output both formats, like Buildpack authors can output both formats. We'll only merge CycloneDX, and in the future, if SPDX supports that functionality, we can add that in a newer version, but we'll have individual SPDX documents anyway if someone figures out how to merge them.
That makes sense. I meant after you have a CycloneDX formatted signed SBOM next to the image, you can build some CLI tool that converts that to a signed SPDX formatted SBOM next to the app image in the registry.
Is there a way to capture that for future work? Is that something, Sam, that we want to incorporate into your current RFC, or?
I would, I mean, there are a couple of things, right? So that RFC currently just deals with Buildpack provided SBOMs. I think we need like base image SBOMs. We need platform provided SBOMs here, I guess. So we should probably have subsequent RFCs that add these files in. The current RFC is flexible enough to support like, multiple different SBOM files from different places. So should be fine.
Cool. So I think I'll take an action item then to at least create an RFC issue that specifies that we may want to consider doing this based off of the RFC that you're currently working on. Cool. All right. Any additional thoughts on that topic? Any other topics? So should we end this early?
I had one question. I don't know if it came up in the platform sync, but we're moving to that the project descriptor to spec, right? And I guess what happens if you want compatibility with both of those versions as an app developer? So let's say again, this is like an app developer facing breaking change, so it impacts lots of applications that are out of the operator's control. You can't just update the lifecycle and Buildpacks and be done with it. And applications are also used in different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of backwards compatibility, I also meant backwards compatibility not just in Pack, but probably across different platforms. So what happens if both O1 and O2 versions are there? Is that supported? Is that something we plan on supporting in the meanwhile, while other platforms get their versions up to date? And if not, that's going to be an issue where people will just stick to O1 for better platform compatibility until people move over, which means they'll not get a bunch of new features.
So I could speak to what I do know from Pack's side. I think the Heroku intern, I believe, Yosef, he's currently working on the backwards compatibility support and implementing the new version for Pack. So from Pack's perspective, we'll have support for both, and there'll be no actual breaking there. For, I guess, future thinking solutions, I know Emily brought up the idea of creating some sort of mechanism that converts the project descriptor into a platform API specific format, that way then the platforms don't have to worry about it, and only keep that in mind. I don't know exactly where she is with that. She seemed very passionate about it, but I don't know if her availability is there.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
By both, you mean if both the versions are there in project descriptor, it will be able to parse. Then how will it be able to parse both of them? So it's not just that there's one application with V1, one with V2. What happens if there's an application with both of them, because you want local testing with Pack, for example, and then remote builds with KPack?
Oh, I see. That I don't know if we should support that functionality. I mean, that's my opinion, right? Like the complexity doesn't seem worth it. I feel like they should just either they're going V2 all the way or they're not. But I get where you're coming from. I'm just trying to figure out exactly whether it's worth it.
So there is a precedence there, right? Because technically you can have both of those things in your project descriptor. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Right.
We should clarify the precedence, and that's sort of the backwards compatibility questions I had around that pull request, and I wanted clarification on the issue. It's not just about like making two different applications who have one has V1, one is V2, and making them compatible. That's also what happens if both the tables are present. How can you pick one over the other? And then if those tables have different information, that's going to cause other issues for app developers. Just feels very messy because we didn't have a unique API version field on the top, and then we moved.
Is this because the version numbers are 0 point something?
I thought it was because there's no the place where you specify the API version changed.
But
Project Toml.
Yeah.
so I guess from what perspective are you thinking about that? Like from a programmatic perspective, we could determine if it's V1 or V2, right?
So you can, so if both are present, you're gonna assume some precedence, right?
So, okay, I see what you're saying. So basically, like if I remember correctly, the solution that Yosef was currently working on was if there's an underscore dot schema version, then he would pull that schema version, and if it says .02, then it's .02, right? .2, whatever the hell it is. Yeah. So that would be the check, the first check. And then if it's not there, then it would fall back to the unversioned version, right? The O.1.
Because like according to O1, there was nothing there preventing people from creating these random tables or things. So I just wanted to make sure that when we do release this version of Pack, we clearly lay out the precedence, because we haven't done that in the spec, and other platforms will probably need to do something similar to maintain compatibility.
Yeah.
Is part of the problem here that if you bump something in Project Toml to 0.2 and the platform is at 0.1, it's not compatible? I feel like we're going to keep hitting compatibility problems until we're willing to say it's 1.0, and that a thing that is marked 1 point, like a platform at 1.0 should be compatible with a Project Toml at, or a platform at 1.1 should be compatible with the Project Toml at 1.0, where minors don't break compatibility. And part of me thinks we should suffer through the breaking changes until we're willing to do that, because it's good motivation for having reasonable version numbers. Because I think we are, in fact, trying to make stability guarantees, working around the fact that we don't want to bump our numbers to numbers that represent those stability guarantees to some extent.
I think this is just the first time this is an app-facing API, like app developer-facing API version. So it's impacting people more. They can't just make transparent changes in the background and the app developer will get the latest thing. That doesn't happen. So that's why I'm more concerned about it than the other ones.
Let's bump things to 1.0 and meet the stability guarantees that we want to provide anyways. That's what I think.
I guess maybe I have two comments. One of them is in regards to the usage of Project.toml, right? I think from my perspective, and maybe this is, there's no data to back this up, but I don't think that a lot of people are really using this, and a lot of platforms are supporting this.
The Project Toml stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, all of Paketo Buildpacks use Project Toml to configure them.
Did they migrate to that?
Yeah. or they moved away from, like, I mean, Buildpacks YAML is deprecated, like you'll get a deprecation notice, but all of them use the environment variables, which they tell you to specify using Project Toml build end table, but you
Yeah,
can also,
there's no explicit dependency, right? You can use Project Toml to set environment variables, right? The explicit dependency is environment variables. So it's a loose coupling, but you'll see lots of examples of us using Project Toml. But yeah, there's no explicit dependency on Project Toml.
Okay, that clarifies it quite a lot. Okay, so they're not reading Project Toml. They're expecting the environment variable. So again, it goes back to the app developer. If they choose to stay on the O1 version, or if they choose to bump to the O2 version. But then again, I feel like they have to go in all the way, right? Like we can't have this mesh of both versions on file.
yeah, I guess maybe this is not the right place and I should ask in the Paketo group instead, but what's the plan there? Like, would you still recommend people to use O1 for better platform compatibility in that case? Like if you're just configuring stuff using environment variables?
I mean, I would say Paketo probably doesn't have a preference. Like our thing is environment variables getting set. And some folks are going to want to do that like dynamically at the platform level, like in some sort of platform configuration file, declare what the environment variables are for that particular build. And other folks are going to want to do stuff like bake it into the source code using something like a project descriptor. But like, we don't really care ultimately where that comes from.
Yes, that's more of a me problem to solve than internally.
Oh crap, it's on me again. Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate. I guess maybe I'm trying to understand. Do you think if we had Emily's solution of where you could specify any format, and then based on the platform API, the platform has a higher guarantee of support, then it wouldn't be a problem, right? But still, you can't have a mixed mash of a file that contains both formats, right? Like you still have to pick one. It's just now you might go to documentation for, let's say, Paketo, and they're still using the schema 1 version, but then you go somewhere else and they're using a schema 2 version. I mean, this isn't uncommon from an app developer's perspective. They just have to know how to migrate from one to the other.
It also depends how familiar app developers are with the Buildpack APIs. Like we also offer this as sort of like a magical, you don't have to know it solution. And then we are asking them to read API docs to figure out which project descriptor API they should be using.
Well, maybe we could help in that regard, right? And through the feedback, like warnings and stuff like that, that the system outputs.
Yeah. I mean I would like this to be very carefully documented so that we don't break app developers, both on the pack site and also on the website.
I guess I'm not to maybe double on Steven's point. I think a little bit of breakage seems fine at this point in time. We do apologize, Sam, that you have to go through it, but we're not sure how big of an ecosystem breaking change this actually is. And then yeah, trying to get Emily's proposal implemented would probably be the best solution long term. So I could I could hit her up on that and see if there's anything we can do to get some more traction there. All right, anything else? Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, I think our agenda is empty, so we are done. You guys can get a couple minutes back. All right. See y'all.
Thanks.